The transport ship shook as it landed on Fenris Prime. Dr. Elena Vasquez held her 8-year-old daughter Maya close as the engines powered down. Through the small window, she could see a world of red rocks and purple skies. Strange trees with silver leaves swayed in the alien wind. "Are you scared, Mama?" Maya asked in her quiet voice. Her dark eyes looked up at Elena with that serious expression she had worn since her father died 3 months ago. "A little," Elena admitted, "but we're going to be okay. The Lupari people invited us here to help them." Maya nodded and pressed her small hand against the window. "The wolves look sad," she said. Elena looked outside and saw them. The Lupari stood waiting near the landing pad. They looked like giant wolves that walked on 2 legs. Their fur was thick and gray, and they wore simple clothes made of leather and metal. Even from a distance, Elena could see something was wrong. They stood apart from each other, not like a proper pack. Their ears drooped and their tails hung low. The ship's door opened with a hiss. Hot, dry air rushed in, carrying strange smells. Elena picked up their bags and took Maya's hand. They walked down the ramp together. The largest Lupari stepped forward. He was covered in scars, and one of his ears was torn. His yellow eyes looked tired and angry at the same time. "I am Grimjaw," he said in rough English. His voice sounded like gravel. "I lead this broken pack until we find our alpha." Elena bowed slightly, the way the cultural files had taught her. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. This is my daughter Maya. We're here to study your pack structures and help if we can." Grimjaw's nose twitched as he sniffed the air around them, his eyes fixed on Maya, who had hidden behind her mother's leg. "The small one smells different," he muttered. "Children often smell different to other species," Elena said quickly. "It's normal." But Grimjaw kept staring at Maya with a puzzled expression. Other Lupari had gathered around, and they were all sniffing the air too. Some of them looked confused. Others seemed nervous. An old female Lupari with white fur stepped forward. She wore a necklace made of carved bones. "I am Elder Moonwhisper," she said. "Welcome to our dying world." Elena frowned. "Dying?" Moonwhisper nodded sadly. "For 200 years we have had no true alpha. Our people grow weak. Our cubs are born sick. Our packs fight each other instead of working together. Without an alpha's call, we forget how to be Lupari." She gestured to the settlement around them. Elena could see it now. The broken buildings. The small groups of Lupari who wouldn't look at each other. The general air of sadness that hung over everything like a gray cloud. "What happened to your last alpha?" Elena asked. "Killed in the war with the metal teeth," Grimjaw growled. "Along with all who carried the alpha blood. Since then, we test many candidates. All fail." Maya stepped out from behind her mother. She looked up at the giant wolf beings with no fear in her eyes. "Why do they fail?" she asked. The Lupari looked surprised that the small human child had spoken to them. Moonwhisper knelt down to Maya's level, which was still much taller than the little girl. "The alpha must make the pack feel complete," she explained gently. "When the right alpha speaks, every Lupari knows they belong. Their heart sings, their strength grows, and they would follow their alpha into the fires of a dying star. But when the wrong one tries to lead," she shook her head, "nothing happens. They are just another wolf." Maya nodded as if this made perfect sense, like when the birds follow the one who knows where to find food. "Yes, little one. Exactly like that." Elena watched this exchange with interest. Maya had always been good with animals, but something about the way the Lupari looked at her daughter made her nervous. They were shown to a small building made of red stone. It had 2 rooms, simple furniture, and a water recycler. Elena set up her research equipment while Maya explored. The little girl found a window that looked out over the main square and sat there to watch the Lupari go about their daily lives. "They're all alone," Maya said after a while. Elena looked up from her computer. "What do you mean?" "They're together, but they're alone. Like at the shelter where we got Buster." Buster had been their dog, who died the same day as Elena's husband. Maya had noticed that the shelter dogs stayed in groups but never seemed happy. Elena joined her daughter at the window. She watched the Lupari walking around the square. Maya was right. They moved near each other but never really together. No shared glances, no playful interactions, no pack behavior at all. That evening, Grimjaw came to their building. He brought food, some kind of roasted meat and purple vegetables that tasted like sweet potatoes. "Tomorrow, another candidate tries for alpha," he told Elena. "You may watch if you want to understand our problem." "What will happen?" Elena asked. Bloodfang will challenge any who oppose him. If he wins, the pack will test if they can follow him. If the pack bond forms, he becomes our alpha. If not, Grimjaw shrugged. We keep looking. Maya had been quietly eating her dinner, but now she looked up. What if nobody is supposed to be the alpha yet? Both adults stared at her. What do you mean, child? Grimjaw asked. Maybe the alpha is supposed to be someone nobody thought of, someone different. Grimjaw's expression darkened. Only Lupari can be alpha. It is in our blood, our bones, our souls. No outsider could ever understand the pack. Maya just nodded and went back to eating. But Elena noticed that Grimjaw kept glancing at her daughter with that same puzzled look from before. The next morning, they gathered in the main square. Hundreds of Lupari formed a large circle. In the center, a huge Lupari with black fur and red eyes faced 3 challengers. This was Bloodfang, and he was even bigger than Grimjaw. The fights were brutal but quick. Bloodfang defeated each challenger with bone-crushing blows. The watching Lupari howled their approval. But Elena noticed the howls sounded forced, empty. Then came the test. Bloodfang stood in the center of the circle and let out a long, powerful howl. He called for the pack to follow him, to accept him as their alpha. Silence followed. The Lupari looked at each other, then at Bloodfang. Some tried to howl back, but their voices cracked. Others just looked away. After several minutes, it was clear that nothing was happening. No pack bond formed. No magical connection sparked to life. Bloodfang's face twisted with rage and shame. He stormed away, shoving other Lupari aside. Another failure, Moonwhisper said sadly. The pack remains broken. As the crowd began to break up, Elena noticed something strange. Maya had wandered closer to the center of the circle during the test. Now as she walked back toward Elena, several young Lupari were following her. Not chasing her, following her like ducklings following their mother. Maya seemed unaware of her followers. She was focused on a small injured bird that had fallen near the edge of the square. She knelt down and gently picked it up, making soft cooing sounds. The young Lupari gathered around her, their ears perked up and their tails wagging slightly. When Maya stood up with the bird, they all stood too. When she walked toward a tree to put the bird in a safe spot, they all followed. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Grimjaw appeared beside her, his yellow eyes fixed on the strange procession. That, he said quietly, should not be possible. 3 weeks passed and strange things kept happening around Maya. It started small. During Elena's research sessions, young Lupari would gather outside their building. They said they were just curious about the humans, but Elena noticed they always showed up when Maya was playing outside. They would sit in a circle around her, watching her draw pictures in the dirt or build towers with colored rocks. Maya treated them like any other children, sharing her toys and asking about their games. She learned their names: Swiftpaw, Bright Ears, Moonhowl, and others. They taught her simple Lupari words, and she taught them human songs. But it was more than just friendship. Elena saw things that made no sense. When 2 young Lupari started fighting over a toy, Maya simply walked between them and held out her hands. Both fighters stopped immediately and handed her the toy. She gave it to a third child and suggested they all play together. The former enemies obeyed without question. When a group of adult Lupari were arguing about work schedules, Maya wandered into their circle while chasing a butterfly. The adults fell silent watching her. She smiled at them and said, "You're all really good at different things. Maybe you could trade jobs sometimes?" The Lupari looked at each other and began nodding. They worked out a fair schedule in minutes. Most puzzling of all, aggressive Lupari became calm around Maya. Snarlfang, a warrior known for his bad temper, found himself helping Maya reach fruit in tall trees. Razorclaw, who usually challenged anyone who looked at him wrong, spent an afternoon teaching Maya how to track animal prints in the sand. "It's like she has some kind of magic," Elena told Grimjaw one evening. "Animals back on Earth always liked her, but this is different." Grimjaw was watching Maya through the window. She was sitting with 5 young Lupari, all of them listening intently as she told them a story about brave knights and friendly dragons. "Not magic," Grimjaw said slowly. "Something else. Something that should not be." "What do you mean?" Grimjaw turned away from the window. His scarred face looked troubled. "Young Lupari obey only their parents and the Alpha. But they obey your child as if—" He stopped, shaking his head. "As if what?" "As if she were their Alpha, but that's impossible. She is not Lupari." Elena felt that cold feeling in her stomach again. Grimjaw, what exactly happens when a true alpha is near? What are the signs? The pack feels complete, he said. Conflicts end. Everyone knows their place. The alpha's scent calms the angry and gives courage to the fearful. Young ones gather to learn. Adults seek guidance without being asked. He paused. All of these things happen when your daughter is present. The next day, Elena decided to test her growing suspicions. She set up her research equipment to monitor the Lupari's biological responses when Maya was around versus when she wasn't. The results were impossible to ignore. When Maya was present, the Lupari's stress hormones dropped. Their heart rates synchronized. Their brain activity showed patterns Elena had only seen described in theoretical papers about perfect pack harmony. Mom, why are you pointing that thing at me? Maya asked, noticing the scanner Elena was using. Just checking something, sweetie. How do you feel when you're with the Lupari children? Maya thought about this seriously. Happy, she said. They're sad a lot, so I try to help them feel better. Is that okay? Of course it's okay. How do you help them feel better? I don't know. I just know what they need. Like when Swiftpaw is scared, I can tell, so I hold his hand. Or when Bright Ears is angry, I know she needs to run around for a while. Maya shrugged. It's easy. It was easy for her, Elena realized. Reading pack dynamics, understanding emotional needs, providing exactly the right response. All things that should have taken years of study. Maya was doing it instinctively. That afternoon, everything changed. Elena was in their building analyzing her data when she heard shouting outside. She looked out the window and saw Lupari running in all directions. Smoke was rising from the edge of the settlement. She grabbed her emergency communicator. Grimjaw, what's happening? The Shadowpaw pack attacks, his voice crackled back. They want our territory. All civilians to shelters now. Elena looked around frantically for Maya. Her daughter had been playing outside with the Lupari children just minutes ago. Now she was nowhere to be seen. Elena ran outside. The square was chaos. Adult Lupari were grabbing weapons and forming defensive lines. Cubs were crying for their parents. In the distance, she could see dark shapes moving between the buildings. The attacking Shadowpaw pack. Maya. Elena screamed. Maya, where are you? She found her daughter in the worst possible place, right in the middle of the square, standing with a group of terrified young Lupari. They had been playing when the attack started, and were now trapped between the two fighting forces. Elena started running toward them, but she was too far away. A group of Shadowpaw warriors burst into the square, their eyes wild with battle fury. They saw the defenseless cubs and charged. Maya stepped in front of the young Lupari. What happened next would be talked about in Lupari legends for generations. Maya took a deep breath and let out a sound Elena had never heard before. It wasn't quite a howl, wasn't quite a scream. It was something in between, a piercing, commanding call that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her small lungs should have allowed. Every Lupari in hearing distance froze. The attacking Shadowpaw warriors stopped mid-charge. Their weapons raised, but their bodies paralyzed. The defending pack stopped firing their energy weapons. Cubs stopped crying. Adults stopped shouting orders. The entire battle came to a complete halt. In the sudden silence, Maya's voice carried clearly across the square. Stop fighting, she said in her 8-year-old voice. You're scaring the children. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then slowly, weapons began to lower. The Shadowpaw warriors looked confused, as if they couldn't remember why they had been attacking. The defending Lupari looked equally bewildered. The leader of the Shadowpaw pack, a massive female with silver fur, shook her head as if clearing it. She looked at Maya with amazement. Who? What are you? She asked. I'm Maya. The little girl replied simply. Why were you trying to hurt my friends? The Shadowpaw leader's ears flattened against her head. We needed territory. Food for our cubs, but... She looked around at the frozen battlefield, then back at Maya. But this doesn't feel right anymore. Maya walked toward the Shadowpaw leader with no fear. Elena wanted to scream for her to stop, but her own voice seemed frozen in her throat. Are your cubs hungry? Maya asked. Yes, the leader admitted. Then why don't you ask for help instead of fighting? Grimjaw and his pack have extra food. They would share if you asked nicely. The Shadowpaw leader stared at Maya, then at Grimjaw, who was slowly approaching from across the square. Is this true? Grimjaw nodded, his expression stunned. We have surplus from the last hunt. We would share with cubs in need, see? Maya said brightly. Fighting is silly when you can just talk. The Shadow Paw leader knelt down to Maya's level. Little one, what you just did? That call? It reached into our minds and touched something we thought was lost forever. How is this possible? Maya tilted her head confused. I just asked you to stop. You were being mean. Elena finally found her voice and ran to her daughter, sweeping her into a protective hug. Maya, don't ever scare me like that again. But even as she held her child, Elena could see the effect Maya was still having. Both packs were standing closer together now. The aggressive postures were gone. Lupari, who had been enemies moments before, were beginning to talk to each other. Moon Whisper appeared at Elena's side, her old eyes wide with wonder. Dr. Vasquez, she whispered, your daughter just did something that no one has done in 200 years. She commanded 2 packs at once. She made enemies into potential friends with a single call. Elena looked down at Maya, who was now chatting happily with cubs from both packs as if nothing unusual had happened. The question, Grimjaw said, approaching with a mix of awe and concern in his voice, is what do we do now? Your child has shown power that should not exist. There will be those who want to use this power, and others who will fear it. As if summoned by his words, a new howl echoed across the settlement. But this one was different, colder, more threatening. In the distance, Elena could see more shapes moving toward them. Who is that? Elena asked. Moon Whisper's expression darkened. Bloodmane and his purists. They believe only pure Lupari blood can lead the packs. If they learn what your daughter can do. She didn't need to finish. Elena understood. Maya had revealed something extraordinary, but extraordinary things were often dangerous. The little girl looked up at her mother with those serious dark eyes. Are we in trouble, Mama? Elena hugged her tighter. I don't know, sweetie. I honestly don't know. Word of what Maya had done spread across Fenris Prime like wildfire. Within 3 days, delegations from 12 different packs had arrived at the settlement. Some came out of curiosity, others came seeking hope. A few came with suspicion and anger. Elena barely slept during those 3 days. She kept Maya close, watching for any sign of trouble, but the little girl seemed unaware of the storm building around her. She played with the visiting cubs, helped settle disputes between adults, and asked innocent questions that somehow made bitter enemies think twice about their anger. On the 3rd night, the Council of Elders called for a formal meeting. Elena walked into the great hall holding Maya's hand. The circular room was packed with Lupari from across the planet. Their eyes followed Maya as she moved, some filled with wonder, others with doubt. Elder Moon Whisper stood at the center of the circle. Her voice carried clearly in the silent room. We have all heard the stories, she began. A human child who can command packs with her voice. A little one who brings peace where there was war. Tonight we must decide what this means for our people. A large male with golden fur stepped forward. I am Sunmane, leader of the Northern Packs. I have traveled far to see this child. If the stories are true, she may be the answer to our prayers. Another voice spoke from across the room. And if they are false, we waste time on foolish hopes. This came from a female with scars covering half her face. I am Ironhide of the Eastern Territories. I say we test the child properly or send her away before she brings false hope to our people. Maya tugged on Elena's hand. What are they talking about, Mama? Elena knelt down to her daughter's level. They want to know if you're special, sweetie. Some of them think you might be able to help their people. I like helping, Maya said simply. Bloodmane stepped into the circle then, and Elena felt her blood run cold. The purest leader was even bigger than Grimjaw, with pure black fur and eyes like burning coals. When he spoke, his voice rumbled with barely controlled rage. This is madness, he growled. For centuries we have waited for our true alpha. Now you would place our hopes on a human whelp? She is not Lupari. She does not carry our blood, our history, our sacred connection to the pack soul. Several Lupari howled in agreement. Others remained silent, but Elena could see the doubt in their eyes. Maya stepped forward, away from her mother's protective hand. She looked up at Bloodmane without fear. You're angry, she said to the giant Lupari, but not really at me. You're angry because you're scared. Bloodmane's eyes widened in shock. I fear nothing, least of all a human child. You're scared that I might not be able to help, Maya continued in her matter-of-fact way. And you're scared that I might be able to help, because that would mean everything you believed was wrong. It's okay to be scared. Everyone gets scared sometimes. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. No one spoke to Bloodmane that way. No one dared to suggest that the feared purist leader felt fear. But instead of attacking Maya, Bloodmane stared at her with something like amazement. His angry expression flickered, and for a moment Elena saw something else underneath. Pain, loneliness, and yes, fear. How? Bloodmane whispered. How do you see into my heart? I don't know, Maya said. I just look at you and I know what you're feeling. Don't you do that too? Elder Moonwhisper stepped forward before Bloodmane could respond. The child speaks truth that cuts deeper than any blade. Perhaps that is answer enough, but if we are to accept her as our alpha, she must face the trial of the Prime. Elena's heart stopped. What trial? The ancient test, Grimjaw explained grimly. 3 challenges that measure the mind, heart, and soul of a potential alpha. No outsider has ever been permitted to attempt it. And no one has passed it in 200 years, added Ironhide. Many have died trying. No, Elena said firmly. Absolutely not. I won't let you put my 8-year-old daughter through some dangerous trial. But Maya was already walking toward the center of the circle. What kind of challenges? She asked Moonwhisper. The old elder looked troubled. Child, these tests were designed for adult Lupari warriors. The Maze of Shadows, where you must navigate past territorial predators using only pack instincts. The Circle of Harmony, where you must solve conflicts between warring pack members. And finally, the Great Hunt, where you must lead a pack to capture dangerous prey without losing a single member. That doesn't sound so hard, Maya said. Maya, no. Elena reached for her daughter, but the little girl had made up her mind. Mama, they need to know if I can really help them. And I need to know too. What if I can't do it when it really matters? What if their children get hurt because I wasn't good enough? Elena saw her husband in that moment. The same quiet determination, the same willingness to help others no matter the cost to himself. She wanted to refuse, wanted to grab Maya and run back to their ship and leave this world behind. But she also saw the faces of the Lupari around them, desperate hope mixed with doubt. These people were dying as a species, and her daughter might be their only chance. If I agree to this, Elena said slowly, I have conditions. I go with her. And if at any point I think she's in real danger, we stop. Agreed, Moonwhisper said immediately, before any of the more aggressive Lupari could object. The trial began at dawn. The Maze of Shadows was built into a natural canyon system outside the settlement. Ancient Lupari had used it for training, placing dangerous creatures in the twisting passages to test young warriors. Maya stood at the entrance with Elena and a small group of observers. The maze stretched out before them, dark passages carved into red stone with the sound of growling echoing from somewhere deep inside. The goal is simple, Moonwhisper explained. Reach the center of the maze and ring the ancient bell. But the paths are guarded by shadowcats, predators that will attack anything they see as prey. How do I get past them? Maya asked. That is for you to discover. Previous candidates have tried stealth, speed, or brute force. All have failed. Maya nodded and walked into the maze. Elena followed close behind, her heart pounding. The first shadowcat appeared within minutes. It was a sleek black creature the size of a large dog, with glowing yellow eyes and claws that could cut through metal. It crouched in the passage ahead of them, blocking their path. Elena reached for the stunner weapon Grimjaw had given her, but Maya walked forward calmly. Hello, she said to the shadowcat. We're not here to hurt you. We just need to get to the bell. The creature tilted its head, confused. It had expected running or fighting, not polite conversation. Maya sat down cross-legged in front of the predator. You're probably lonely down here in the dark. And bored too. It must be hard, having to attack everyone who comes through. The shadowcat's aggressive posture relaxed slightly. It approached Maya cautiously, sniffing. I bet you miss being outside, Maya continued, playing in the sunshine, hunting real prey instead of having to hurt people in this maze. To Elena's amazement, the shadowcat began to purr. It rubbed against Maya's hand like a giant house cat. You're a good kitty, Maya said, scratching behind its ears. Could you show us the way to the bell? I promise we'll ask the elders to let you go outside more often. The shadowcat looked at Maya for a long moment, then turned and began walking deeper into the maze. It led them through a complex series of passages, growling softly whenever they approached a dead end or a dangerous path. They reached the center of the maze in record time. Maya rang the ancient bell, its deep tone echoing through the canyon. The watching Lupari were speechless. Bloodmane stood with his mouth hanging open. Even Moonwhisper looked stunned. How? Ironhide asked when they emerged. The Shadow Cats have attacked every candidate for 2 centuries. I asked nicely, Maya said as if it were obvious. The second trial took place that afternoon. The Circle of Harmony involved a complex dispute between representatives from 5 different packs. They had been arguing about territory rights, trading agreements, and old grudges for so long that no one could remember how the conflicts had started. Maya listened to each side for about 10 minutes, then raised her hand. You're all right, she said simply. The arguing Lupari stopped mid-sentence. What? One of them asked. You're all right about different things. You, she pointed to a young female, are right that your pack needs more hunting territory because you have lots of new cubs to feed. You, she pointed to an older male, are right that the old trading agreements aren't fair anymore because your pack makes better tools now. And you, she pointed to a scarred warrior, are right that someone needs to apologize for that fight 3 years ago, even if it was an accident. Maya walked to the center of the circle. But you're all wrong about one thing. You think there isn't enough for everyone. There is. You just need to share better. She spent the next hour asking simple questions that made the Lupari think about their problems differently. Why couldn't 2 packs share hunting territory if they coordinated their hunts? Why couldn't the toolmakers teach others their skills in exchange for food and materials? Why couldn't old enemies become new friends if they admitted their mistakes? By the end of the session, the 5 packs had worked out agreements that satisfied everyone. They were already making plans to meet again and continue their cooperation. Impossible, breathed Sunmane. These disputes have lasted for decades. Sometimes grown-ups make things more complicated than they need to be, Maya said. As the great hunt began before sunrise. Maya stood in the pre-dawn darkness, surrounded by 12 adult Lupari warriors. They had been chosen from different packs, some loyal to her, others still skeptical. Each one was experienced, deadly, and used to following only their own instincts in battle. The target was a Titan elk, a massive creature that stood 3 meters tall and weighed as much as a transport vehicle. Its hide was thick enough to stop energy weapons, its antlers could punch through armor, and its intelligence was nearly equal to that of the Lupari themselves. Traditional hunts for Titan elk result in at least 3 deaths. Moonwhisper explained quietly to Elena. They are too large, too smart, and too dangerous to take down safely. Previous alpha candidates have always accepted casualties as the price of success. Elena watched her daughter speaking softly with the hunting party. Maya looked impossibly small next to the giant Lupari warriors, but they were listening to her with an attention that seemed almost hypnotic. What is she telling them? Elena asked. Grimjaw, who was part of the hunting party, had enhanced hearing. She asks about their strengths. Swiftclaw is the fastest runner. Ironjaw has the best sense of smell. Silent Step can move without sound. She wants to know what each one does best. This was unusual. Previous candidates had simply ordered the hunters to follow their lead. Maya was treating them like a team. The hunt began with tracking. The Titan elk lived in the crystal forests on the far side of the valley, where strange trees grew with transparent bark and leaves that chimed in the wind. Maya rode on Grimjaw's back as they traveled, her small hands gripping his fur. But she wasn't just along for the ride. She was constantly talking to the hunting party, asking questions, making suggestions. Silent Step, can you circle around to the left? Swiftclaw, how far ahead can you scout without losing our scent? Ironjaw, do you smell anything besides the elk? The warriors began to move with unusual coordination. Instead of 12 individuals following a leader, they were becoming something more. A true pack working toward a single goal. They found the Titan elk near midday. The creature was magnificent and terrifying. Its antlers spread wider than Maya was tall, and its dark eyes held an intelligence that was almost human. It grazed peacefully in a meadow of crystal grass, unaware that it was being hunted. Maya studied the elk for a long time. The hunting party waited, tense and ready for her orders. Previous candidates would have ordered an immediate attack, hoping to bring the creature down through overwhelming force. Instead, Maya pointed to a narrow canyon on the far side of the meadow. We're not going to fight it, she said quietly. We're going to ask it to come with us. Several of the hunters looked confused. Come with us? Ironjaw asked. Look around, Maya said. This meadow is pretty, but it's not good elk habitat. The grass is too sparse, the water source is too far away. There's a much better valley about 2 kilometers north. Richer grass, clear streams, protection from storms. She was right. Elena could see it now. The elk was struggling to find enough food in this barren area. So we show it the better place, Maya continued. If we do it right, it will want to go there. And that valley happens to have only one way in or out, through a narrow pass where we can safely capture it. It was brilliant. Instead of a dangerous battle, Maya was proposing to use the elk's own intelligence and needs against it. The plan required precise timing and coordination. Swiftclaw and 2 others would circle behind the elk, but stay far enough away to avoid spooking it. Silent Step would approach from the west, making just enough noise to make the elk nervous about that direction. Ironjaw would use his scent-masking skills to hide the approach of 3 more hunters from the south. Maya herself would lead the elk north, toward the better valley, by slowly revealing herself and then retreating whenever the elk approached. She would be the bait, drawing the creature exactly where they wanted it to go. That's too dangerous, Elena protested. If something goes wrong, if the elk charges her, it won't, Maya said with quiet confidence. The elk doesn't want to fight. It wants to eat and be safe. I'm going to help it do both. The plan unfolded like a complex dance. Maya appeared at the southern edge of the meadow, just visible enough to catch the elk's attention. When the creature lifted its head to look at her, she waved and then stepped back into the trees. The elk was curious rather than alarmed. It had never seen a human before, and Maya's small size made her seem unthreatening. Meanwhile, the other hunters were subtly encouraging the elk to move north. A glimpse of movement here, a foreign scent there, the sound of breaking branches, never enough to panic the creature, just enough to make it want to move away. Maya reappeared further north, still visible but still non-threatening. The elk decided to investigate this strange small being. As it moved toward her, Maya retreated again, leading it step by step toward the valley. It took 3 hours, but eventually the elk found itself in exactly the place Maya had wanted. A beautiful valley with rich grass and clear water, accessible only through a narrow canyon pass. The elk was so pleased with its new surroundings that it didn't notice the hunters quietly blocking the exit. Only when it tried to leave did the Titan elk realize it had been trapped. But instead of panicking, it looked around at the circle of Lupari warriors and then at Maya, who stood calmly in the center of the group. Maya walked slowly toward the massive creature. Elena held her breath, sure that her daughter was about to be trampled. Instead, Maya reached out and gently touched the elk's nose. "Thank you for coming with us," she said. "We're not going to hurt you. We just needed to show everyone that we could work together to bring you here safely." The elk studied Maya with those intelligent eyes. Then incredibly, it bent its great head and nuzzled her hand. The watching Lupari were stunned into silence. This was supposed to be a test of dominance, a demonstration of an alpha's ability to command others in deadly combat. Instead, Maya had turned it into something else entirely, a display of cooperation, intelligence, and compassion. But the real surprise came when they released the Titan elk. Release it? Bloodmane had arrived with a group of observers, and his voice was filled with outrage. The creature was captured. It should be killed to complete the trial. Maya shook her head. The trial was to catch it without anyone getting hurt. We did that. Now we let it go. But the meat, the proof of victory. The proof is that everyone is still alive, Maya said simply. And the elk gets to live too. That's better than meat. They opened the canyon pass and the Titan elk trotted out, pausing only to look back at Maya one more time before disappearing into the crystal forest. The moment the elk was gone, something extraordinary happened. It started with Swiftclaw, the youngest member of the hunting party. He let out a long musical howl unlike anything Elena had heard before. It wasn't the aggressive war cry of battle, or the mournful call of the packless. It was something new, joyful, triumphant, and full of belonging. One by one, the other hunters joined in. Their voices blended into a harmony that made Elena's heart soar. Other Lupari throughout the valley began to howl as well, their voices carrying across the mountains. Maya stood in the center of it all, her eyes wide with wonder. "What's happening?" Elena asked Moonwhisper, who had tears streaming down her furry cheeks. The Great Awakening, the elder whispered. For the first time in 2 centuries, the packs are singing as one. They recognize their alpha. Elena looked at her daughter and saw something that both thrilled and terrified her. Maya was changing. Her posture was different, more confident, more aware. Her eyes seemed to see everything at once. When she spoke, her voice carried a new authority. "We should head back," Maya said. And every Lupari immediately began preparing for the journey home, not because she had ordered it, but because they all instinctively knew it was the right thing to do. As they traveled back toward the settlement, Elena noticed more changes. Maya seemed to know what each pack member was thinking or feeling. When Ironjaw started limping from an old injury, Maya called for a rest before he had to ask. When Silent Step became nervous about strange sounds in the distance, Maya sent scouts to investigate before the concern could spread to others. She was becoming something more than human, but she was also still unmistakably herself, kind, curious, and determined to help others. That night, as they camped under the alien stars, Elena sat with her daughter by the fire. "How do you feel?" Elena asked. Maya thought about it seriously. "Different. Like I can hear things I couldn't hear before, feel things I couldn't feel. But also," she looked troubled, "it's scary, Mama. What if I make mistakes? What if I can't help everyone?" Elena pulled Maya close. "You don't have to help everyone, sweetie. You just have to do your best. But they need me to be perfect. They need me to be their alpha." Elena was about to reassure her daughter when Grimjaw approached their fire. His scarred face was unusually gentle. "Little Alpha," he said, using the title for the first time. "May I speak?" Maya nodded. "You fear making mistakes. Good. The leaders who do not fear their failures are the ones who cause the most harm. Your fear will make you careful. Your heart will make you wise. And your pack," he gestured to the sleeping Lupari around them. "Your pack?" The attack came 3 weeks after the Great Hunt. Maya was teaching a group of young Lupari how to solve conflicts without fighting when the alarms began to sound. Elena looked up from her research to see smoke rising from the settlement's outer buildings. "Bloodmane," Grimjaw growled, appearing at their door with his weapon drawn. "He brings a force of 200 purists. They mean to kill the child and cleanse the packs of her influence." Elena felt her blood turn to ice. "How long do we have?" "Minutes. They move fast and show no mercy." Maya stood up calmly, brushing dirt from her clothes. The young Lupari around her were whimpering with fear, but she simply placed her hands on their shoulders. "It's okay," she told them. "Go find your parents. Stay safe." They scattered, and Maya turned to Elena with those serious dark eyes that had grown so much older in recent weeks. "I have to face him, don't I?" she said quietly. "No," Elena said firmly. "We're leaving. Right now. We'll take a transport off-world and never come back." But Maya shook her head. "If I run away, he'll hurt everyone who followed me. All the packs that believed in me will suffer. I can't let that happen." Elena wanted to argue, wanted to grab her daughter and run, but she could see the determination in Maya's face. Her little girl had become something more than human. And with that change came responsibilities that Elena couldn't protect her from. "Then we face this together," Elena said. The battle was already raging when they reached the main square. Bloodmane's purists were fierce fighters, driven by fanatical belief that only pure Lupari blood could lead their people. They had struck fast, overwhelming the outer defenses. But something strange was happening. Instead of the chaotic free-for-all that Elena expected, the defending Lupari were fighting with unprecedented coordination. Packs that had been enemies for generations were working together seamlessly. Warriors anticipated each other's moves, covered each other's weaknesses, and fought as a single organism. Maya's influence was spreading beyond those who had directly accepted her as alpha. The Great Awakening was affecting Lupari across the planet, awakening instincts and abilities that had been dormant for centuries. Still, Bloodmane's forces were winning through sheer numbers and brutality. Elena watched in horror as the massive purist leader carved a path through the defenders, heading straight for the center of the settlement where Maya stood waiting. "Send the child to me," Bloodmane roared, his voice carrying over the sounds of battle. "Send me this human pretender and I will make her death quick." Maya stepped forward, but Grimjaw blocked her path. "No, little Alpha, this is not your fight." "It is my fight," Maya said quietly. "He's not really angry at me. He's angry at himself, at his failure to be the Alpha his people needed. I can help him. He means to kill you. I know, but maybe I can show him a better way. Before anyone could stop her, Maya walked into the center of the square. The sounds of battle began to fade as both sides noticed the small human girl standing alone in the open space. Bloodmane approached slowly, his massive form covered in battle scars and the blood of his enemies. His eyes burned with rage and something else. Pain that went deeper than any physical wound, so, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden quiet. The human whelp finally shows herself. Do you know how many of my people have died because of you? How many abandoned their pure heritage to follow a weak alien child? Maya looked up at the giant Lupari without fear. I know you're hurt, she said simply. You wanted to be their alpha so badly. You tried so hard for so long, and when someone else could do what you couldn't, it felt like everything you believed was wrong. Bloodmane's expression flickered with surprise. You think you understand me? You're not evil, Maya continued. You love your people. You want them to be strong and proud. You're just scared that accepting me means they'll stop being truly Lupari. They will, Bloodmane snarled. Already they change, following human ways instead of the pure path of the wolf. Maya shook her head. They're not becoming less Lupari. They're becoming more Lupari than they've been in centuries. Look around you. She gestured to the Lupari watching from all sides. Elena could see what Maya meant. The assembled packs weren't cowering or broken. They stood tall, their eyes bright with intelligence and purpose. They looked like the proud warrior race they were meant to be. You did that, Maya told Bloodmane. Your challenge, your fight, it brought them all together. It made them remember what they could be when they worked as one people instead of scattered fragments. Lies, Bloodmane growled, but his voice lacked conviction. Maya walked closer to the massive Lupari. You're still their alpha too. I may have awakened something in them, but you shaped them. You reminded them of their strength, their heritage, their pride. I could never do that. Only a true Lupari could. Elena held her breath as her 8-year-old daughter reached out and touched Bloodmane's massive clawed hand. We could work together, Maya said softly. I can help them remember how to work as a pack. You can help them remember how to be proud wolves. They need both of us. For a long moment, the square was silent except for the wind whistling through the buildings. Bloodmane stared down at the small human child, who had somehow reached into his heart and touched the pain he'd hidden for decades. Then, slowly the giant Lupari knelt. You would share leadership with one who came to kill you? He asked quietly. You came to save your people, Maya corrected. Just like I did. We both want the same thing, for the Lupari to be strong and happy and free. Bloodmane was quiet for a long time. Then he raised his head and spoke in a voice that carried across the entire settlement. The child speaks wisdom that shames my rage, he announced. She offers partnership where I brought only conflict. Perhaps there is room for both the old ways and the new. A cheer went up from the assembled Lupari. Not the howl of victory in battle, but something deeper. The sound of a people who had found hope after centuries of despair. But the real change came in the days that followed. With Bloodmane's support, Maya's influence spread across Fenris Prime like ripples in a pond. The Great Awakening accelerated, touching every pack on the planet. Lupari, who had been isolated for generations, began to remember what it felt like to be part of something larger than themselves. Birth rates increased. Old conflicts were resolved. New technologies were developed as different packs shared their knowledge freely. The planet that had been dying began to thrive. Maya established new traditions that blended human and Lupari ways. Pack meetings where every voice was heard, celebrations that honored both strength and compassion, training programs that taught young Lupari to think as well as fight. Bloodmane became her partner in leadership, representing the traditional values of Lupari culture, while Maya brought innovation and fresh perspectives. They balanced each other perfectly, his experience and her instincts, his strength and her wisdom. Elena watched her daughter grow into her role with a mixture of pride and amazement. Maya was still recognizably herself, kind, curious, and determined to help others. But she was also becoming something new, something unprecedented. Are you happy? Elena asked one evening as they sat together watching the sunset over the crystal forests. Maya thought about the question seriously, the way she always did. I think so, she said finally. It's hard sometimes being responsible for so many people, but I love them and they love me. That makes the hard parts worth it. Do you miss Earth? Sometimes. But this is home now. These are my people. Maya smiled. Both of them, Lupari and human. As if summoned by her words, a group of young Lupari came bounding across the square, followed by 3 human children whose families had arrived on recent ships. The different species played together without any awareness of the barriers that had once seemed insurmountable. "Is that the future?" Elena asked. Maya grinned, and for a moment she was just a little girl again, delighted by the sight of children playing. "I hope so. Humans and Lupari working together, learning from each other. Maybe other species too someday." She stood up and joined the playing children, her laughter mixing with their howls and shouts of joy. Elena remained sitting, watching her daughter, the human child who had become the alpha of wolves, who had bridged 2 species and created something entirely new. She thought about the future Maya envisioned, a galaxy where humans didn't conquer or replace other species, but helped them become the best versions of themselves. It was a future worth fighting for. 6 months later, when the first diplomatic mission arrived from the Galactic Council, they found something unprecedented on Fenris Prime. A thriving civilization led jointly by a human child and a reformed Lupari warrior, where 2 species had become one people without losing what made each of them unique. The Council had come expecting to mediate another colonial dispute. Instead, they found a new model for interspecies cooperation that would change the galaxy forever. And at the center of it all was Maya, no longer just a little girl who was good with animals, but the first human alpha, the bridge between worlds, the proof that sometimes the most unlikely leaders are exactly what the universe needs. The wolf pack had rejected all alpha candidates until they met the human child. Now they couldn't imagine following anyone else. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.